Good morning, Facebook world. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Friday morning. Um, as always, please feel free to ask questions throughout the live. And if you're watching the replay, post when you comment, put hashtag replay, or when you watch it, hashtag replay. And if you're asking questions that way, I know that I haven't answered them during the live. Let me get my dashboard figured out so I can see your comments. If you're on one of my pages that is not my Canine Essentials with Paula Hoger page, I will probably not be able to see your comments. So please make sure to go onto that page so that I can see your comments while I'm doing the live. Did I find comments? I think I found comments. There we go. Somebody say hi and make sure I can see that. Okay, guys, very excited about today's live, and I'm very excited about the whole Canine Essentials with Paula Hoger page, as I'm going to higher levels of training that I'm talking about, which I won't lie is my favorite part. Last week I spoke about rates of reinforcement and how you should keep your success rate at about 80%. This week I'm going to speak about the other side of the coin, failure. So as much as your success rate should be about 80%, your failure rate should be about 20% to get the best out of your training time. Let's face it, everybody likes to be right. It's rewarding. Even just the simple fact of being right is rewarding. Everybody likes successes. And if you're listening to this live and listening to me, you like positive dog training and want to reward your dog. So the not so great side of positive dog training is that it has become synonymous with keeping your dog happy at all times. And I have been there. I have trained my dogs I have my very first dog, I wanted him to be happy all the time. I knew nothing, and all this positive stuff sounded to me like saying, keep your dog happy. If your dog is not happy, you're not doing a good enough job. And I see this a lot with my clients. This can cause huge problems. I fell into this mindset, and what I learned from it is very much my experience and now what I see with my clients. To achieve a happy dog, you will constantly be trying to give your dog what they want or figure out what they want. And yes, it's completely true. I want my dog to be confident and content and comfortable, but I also need my dog to understand how to think and how to problem solve, and to understand what is and is not available. My dog, I'm walking down the street, my dog wants to play with the dog walking down the other side. To keep him happy, I would let him go play. But in real life, what I need from my dog is to walk by that dog, because otherwise he's going to pull on leash. I had a neighbor almost get hit by a car as her dog dragged her across the street to see another dog. That is not happy. That is dangerous. That is creating a state you don't want in your dog. Good morning, Barb. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. If in trying to keep your dog happy, you never allow them to figure things out, which is the other thing I see. They're like, oh, my dog's not sure. Here, let me help them. Then what you are doing, you're doing yourself and your dog a disservice, because your training will become stuck. You are taking away the dog's ability to learn, like to practice how to figure out a problem and get to the next step. But you're also not getting your learning because you're never teaching your dog how to problem solve. And learning is all about problem solve. Good morning, Dorothy. How's your little baby Billy doing? So this is why the 20% failure of the equation is just as important as the 80% success. Said another oh wow, the tongue is rented this morning. Said another way, if your dog is always right, he is not increasing his understanding, he is not learning. The information of what is wrong is just as important as what is right. Let's take a human example. Let's take math, something challenging to a lot of people, or at least their hallucination is that it's challenging. I'm going to assume we all know that 2 + 2 is 4. But I bet at some point when you were learning how to add, you made a mistake. You might have said 2 + 2 is 3. And someone had to tell you that that was incorrect. To now be confident that 2 plus 2 is 4, you must have had to figure out why 2 plus 2 was not 3 and done a lot of practice of 2 plus 2 is 4. Yes, you had to start with a lot of correct repetition. That taught you the concept of adding. But at some point, by making mistakes, you learned how not to add. 2 plus 2 is not 3. Good morning, Debbie. Thank you for joining me this morning. Dog training works in the same way. The goal is to constantly challenge your dog to find the sweet spot where your dog is confident enough to work through a problem, staying engaged, and not wanting to quit. This is where the money is. The ability to find the spot and maintain it is what makes a great dog trainer. Regularly training your dog at the sweet spot creates a dog that loves challenges and working through them. Good morning, Julie. Oh, I am so happy to hear Sisu is better. Julie has had a hard time with Sisu, and Sisu's done a lot of work. So I'm so happy to hear she is feeling better. Let's take a sit stay. And on this, as I talk about failure and too much failure, I'm going to post a video later today to all my groups and pages about me working a really not great training session with my own dog. And I want you to see the disconnects as I put too much failure on her and she starts to go, oh, what's over there? It's fascinating to watch when you slow it down and really see and stop blaming the dog and start really seeing that a lot of the times the disconnects are a reflection of what we're doing. They are not distracted. They disconnect and then get distracted instead of they get distracted. It's really interesting to watch. And some dogs get distracted. And I'll talk a little bit more about this. Some dogs get distracted, but some dogs might do something like jump up and bite you. Every dog is different. Let's take a sit stay. When I teach a sit, there is always a stay component because teaching your dog to sit to get a cookie and walk away is only useful to give them a cookie. So I try to use my training time to create real life skills. I want right from the start to build skills that are useful. I start teaching the sit stay by giving the sit cue, hand signal at the beginning, and rewarding my dog multiple times and then giving the release such as okay or break. My dog is on leash, so I have pain management. Sorry, don't know where pain management came from. My dog is on leash, so I have management in place in case the dog makes the wrong decision, aka a failure. Because of the multiple rewards, the dog is starting to understand the sit has 3 parts: the actual sitting, the stay, and the release. This builds confidence and understanding of what is expected. The first challenge for any dog, and I mean 8-week-old puppies I do this with, the first challenge is slowing down the rate of rewards. Now, between those rewards, the dog has an option to get up and leave. At first, the rewards are quick enough that the odds of the dog leaving are so tiny. But then the rewards get slower, and now the dog has a lot more time to make the incorrect choice. The rewards are now rewarding the choice to stay every time. At first, it's a really easy choice. Like I was saying, quick treats are like boom, boom, boom. But then there is more duration between each reward the dog gets. The choice to stay becomes harder, or said another way, the choice to leave becomes easier. Sooner or later, the dog is going to choose to leave, aka failure. I have management in place, the leash, to stop him from earning reinforcement for leaving. Now the dog has gotten up, the leash prevents him from leaving. Now he has a choice: continue to try and leave or return to sitting. The dog, if I stay here, she gives me cookies. If I try to leave, I can't get anywhere because I have a leash on. So what if I go back to sitting? That gets me cookies. I'm going to do that again. The dog has just learned that making a certain choice earns reinforcement. Remember, training is questions and answers. And when the dog figures out an answer, physiologically, there's a dopamine release, which is in itself rewarding. Okay, Debbie, we are at camp a day early to work on socializing before everyone gets here. Good job. You constantly have to look for situations to practice with your dog and socialize or do ODR, whatever you want to call it. Good for you for having that organization that you're going to get there to do this a day early and be that much better prepared when everybody else gets there. Okay, I want to take a moment to point out what I didn't do. I did not correct the dog for the wrong decision. I don't want to create fear or discomfort. I want to facilitate learning. I say nothing for the wrong choice and use my management to give information. I praise and reward the right choice. This is how you build your dog's confidence and understanding of what I want and how to earn reinforcement. Let me give an example of how to further challenge the dog. You and your dog are still working on sit. Someone walks in the room. You still have the leash on your dog and you're holding on to it. The dog is possibly going to make a choice without even thinking about it. Your dog totally forgets he was in a sit and goes, oh, look, a new person. I'm going to say hello. The leash stops him. And right away, he's like, oh, I can't get to the person. What should I be doing? It puts him in a situation to make a choice. If he continues to try to get to the person, this is giving you the information that this choice is too hard for this dog at this time. And then you just remove him from the situation or get the person to walk out the door. If the dog goes towards the person, but then after a moment or two goes, oh yeah, I was working on sit, comes back and sits in front of you, awesome. You're going to reinforce that because that is the dog making a choice. Yes, you helped him make the choice, but he still eventually made the right choice. And that's what we're focusing on. The dog made the wrong choice, aka failure, was stopped from earning reinforcement by the leash and now made the right choice, which you reward. Now the dog has learned to return and sit when someone walks into the room. You don't want to do this 100 times. So if my dog is in a sit, someone walks into the room, he gets up, he goes, person, and then goes, oh yeah, sorry, I'm sitting. Once, twice, 3 times even, I'm like, okay. But if my dog continues to do that, then I would be creating sit to mean get up, go see a distraction, come back, and then sit. So this is where you have to figure stuff out. So I might go, okay, the person walking into the room is too much. How about the person just makes a sound of a step outside the room? Is that easy enough for the dog that he's going to go, oh yeah, I'm still sitting? He can keep his brain in his head. Remember, it's all about keeping the brain in their head. Dog training is easy when their brain stays in their head. You would then continue to practice this way until all the skill was easy, and then you'd move on to a new challenge. This might be one session or many, depending on the dog and their skill level and their ability to keep their brain in their head. That's a whole different issue. I work a lot with reactive dogs. Oh, and remember, while you're doing all those choices, you want to keep that 80-20 rule. So I would do a bunch of easy questions. Can you ignore food? Can you ignore me moving? And then if he was failing at the person walking in, I would do a bunch of easy questions, and then I would do person walking in. Bunch of easy questions, person walking in. But again, the person walking in can be made easier by going further away from the doorway of the room, by having the person just do a step sound outside the room. There's so many ways to challenge the dog without making them fail. You want to find that line where it's just hard, not impossible. I work a lot with reactive dogs. Most owners of reactive dogs spend their lives avoiding their dogs reacting. So this concept of allowing failure is super hard for them. Reactive dogs, if you've owned one, it's embarrassing. So we don't like embarrassing, of course, and we avoid it. So trying to get them to allow their dog to react is hard. And I don't want full reaction, but let me go further into this. In every stage of my reactive dog program, we build in planned failure because, again, that's how you progress. These planned failures are important for a few reasons. At first, it's all about the dog learning to control himself. Like that person walking into the room, it's exactly the same as that was a reactive dog with a person walking into the room or a dog walking by. As you progress through the levels, it becomes not just about the dog, but you knowing what to do when and if your dog reacts. Like I said above, without failure, your dog and you will not fully understand what you don't want, which is part of understanding what you do want. So how do we get there? Stage 1. If you've been listening to my lives on ODR, which is how I work with reactive dogs, stage 1 is the get it game. You hold the dog's collar. Full management, allowing the dog to make mistakes and preventing reinforcement until your dog gives you the behavior you are looking for. You do this by having your hand in your dog's collar or harness. Remember, this is planned failure. Like in the sit exercise, you want this to challenge the dog where he could make a wrong choice. You do not want his brain to explode and him to lose control. This exercise may be super simple for some dogs and super hard for others, and that's fine. You work the exercise until it's relatively easy, and then you increase the challenge. Hold your dog's collar and throw a cookie out in front. Most dogs are going to do anything in their power to get that cookie. They are going to lunge, to buck, to bull. That is okay. That is your dog going, what do I have to do to get that cookie? And this is them understanding that self-control that is so important in all your dog's training. Do not give any cues. No leave it, no no's, just wait. I promise your dog will settle down. This exercise has the real life application. It is giving you the opportunity to practice the mechanics. And your dog the opportunity to practice how to stay calm when faced with a distraction. See how this works? In the future, that thrown cookie will actually be a real life distraction, such as the dog walking by, or a person, or a squirrel, or a bicycle. This allows us to teach the concept of being thoughtful instead of reacting, while keeping your dog's success rate high through planned failure we have control over. Be patient. All dogs eventually will stop arguing the point and bucking and jumping. And when they stop, they usually stop because they're like, why isn't this working? Why am I not getting the cookie? Because in their world, they're like, I see a cookie, I get it. This is how this works. And this is such the problem. Self-control is the biggest problem in dog training. This is what you are looking for when they stop, because they're like, I don't get it. As soon as they stop, you say, get it, and you let them get the cookie. And they're like, oh, me stopping gets me the cookie. That's new. Giving your dog the information that this calm behavior, quiet and all four paws on the ground, is what gets them what they want, the cookie. And at first, honestly, the second they stop, I say, get it, and let them go. Eventually, I add all the details of the get it, of I want you to look at the cookie. I want you to be able to look at it for a bit, all that stuff. But at first, it's just you stopped. You're always looking for improvements. If I have a barker and he goes to whining, I might release him on a whine, working towards releasing on quiet. But because him whining instead of barking is an improvement, I will reinforce that. You're always looking for bits you can reinforce. Okay, I'm going to pause for a comment. Debbie, so my June, I don't know why, but just before she reacts, I make a sound that grabs her attention, like a yip in a high tone. Don't know why, but it works. Even a cookie in front won't, but sound does, and I reward. Debbie, that is wonderful. That you have the ability to stop your dog before she reacts is wonderful. My goal for you, though, is that June stops herself from reacting on her own. My goal when working with any dog, but definitely with reactive dogs, is not for me to be able to stop my dog from reacting, is for my dog not to react. So whatever situation you're in that you see your dog about to react, could you start to plan that situation where you could, and depending on the situation. So if you have June on leash or on, holding her collar, most dogs have this moment between the lock-in and the reaction. And that's what I try to reward. So she looks and you see her going, I'm about to react. And that's when you're going, I'm going to make this noise and you're going to turn back to me. But that's you interrupting the behavior, not her choosing not to react. But instead, you're just going to reward that. And she's like, oh, now I'm looking at the distraction, but I'm chewing, which should stop the reaction. And that's how you start to build not reacting. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. Okay, you will be amazed how a bucking bronco can become a calm dog waiting for the get it cue in only a few repetitions. The power of clear information and reward. When we're clear on our information, it is amazing how quickly dogs get it. If you have a dog that is used to getting what they want, you may have to have extra patience. It's true. That's why I encourage everyone to enroll in my puppy program. It is so much easier teaching the skills the right way before your dog has the opportunity to practice bad habits. This decreases the stress for both you and your dog. If you want some information on our puppy program for dogs that are 5 months and younger, just send me a message. I see so much behavior in young dogs, and I get the time dogs come into training, go end up at the Humane Society, get given up, are around 7 months to about 10 months, just as they're hitting adolescence. That puppy that you've allowed to go visit other dogs or visit people and pull on leash potentially is going to be a reactive dog because they're not understanding self-control from the beginning. When I walk in town, like I go into Ottawa and walk, I am amazed. And I have a pile of clients in Ottawa who send me updates on their dogs that we're working together right with. And I'm amazed on how they're like, oh, walking down the street, like every walk, walking down the street, this dog barked and lunged at us. Oh, this dog ran at us barking. I'm like, it's getting worse. The reactivity on leash is getting worse, and it all stems from people not teaching their puppies self-control. If your puppy has self-control, they're not going to be reactive as adolescents. And if they are, if usually then they're fearful. And if they are fearful and reactive, you've already got the tools to manage that and as they go through their fear periods so that they will come out of it being able to walk by all those things that scare them. Let me give you an example of planned failures in the next stage of my ODR game. Oh, Debbie, so happy that makes sense. ODR stands for Observe, Don't React, which is exactly what we're looking for. Looking for more info on my ODR game. I will post the link to my Facebook Live about it in the show notes. I want to point out something. These steps, the Get It game and the ODR game, are not just used in my reactive dog program. They are part of every training plan for every dog I work. ODR game is a concept used throughout my training. Basically, it's teaching self-control. It's teaching just because you see it doesn't mean you get it. Let me look at comments. Julie, I like that Sisu will look at neighbor dog and look at Brady rather than lunging or barking at him. She knows that quiet as cookies. Lovely, Julie. And that's tough for Sisu. And that's it. You're creating the habit of looking at a dog as quiet. Yes, it leads to cookies now, but eventually that just becomes the habit because you're interrupting that habit of looking at a dog as barking. And that's creating, it's all about triggers and responses, right? If the sight of a dog creates barking, now you have to change that habit. But if you've created right from puppyhood, the sight of a dog means cookie, now the best you're going to get is, or the worst you're going to get is, look, I saw a dog. Where's my cookie? Oh, no cookie? Oh yeah, look, there's still a dog. They just don't ever build up to that trigger of the sight of a dog means barking. If I am walking a puppy or a young or an inexperienced dog and anybody barks at my dog, that means barking from a house, from in a house, from a car, on the street, my first reaction is, here, dogs bark at you, cookies appear in your mouth. Because that means the relationship with being barked at becomes I get cookies, instead of the relationship with being barked at becomes I scan the world looking for what's barking at me and I am ready to bark back. You really, really don't want to do that. So that's it. I have had a couple of reactive dogs, but I had a very reactive dog in the last few years, and we were walking somewhere. He was probably 3 or 4 by then, so he's an adult and he's got the training in. And we walked somewhere and I didn't see the dog was tied to a tree, and I didn't see it because it was in the shade. And we were maybe 20 feet away and this dog totally lunged and barked at him. And Specky was just like, yeah, whatever, and kept walking. I was like, oh, such a good boy. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for your dog to go, reacting is just not in what I do. On the other side of that coin, you got to make sure to always keep your dog safe, so he doesn't feel that barking dog is dangerous, right? That barking dog led to him being charged, then that would be paired. Where was I? Okay, every dog needs to learn to be calm to get what they want. Like always, the distraction has to be appropriate for the dog. That means the distraction will challenge the dog, but you want the dog to still be able to think and make choices. When I first start, this distraction could be a cookie on the floor, a toy I just threw, a dog 300 feet away, or children at the park. It's really dependent on the dog. Every session starts with building confidence, something the dog will be successful at. When first transitioning to ODR, I start with the get it game. Get it game is easier than ODR. For some reason, holding their collar makes challenges much, much easier. Hold on, I'll pause for comments. Debbie, quiet as cookie is awesome. I'm going to use this. It's not just quiet as cookie. Like I said, it's looking at the dog predicts the cookie. You cannot chew and bark. So right away when they look at the dog and get a cookie, they never go into I look at the dog and I bark. Julie, it takes more for Graham to react. He is more of a quiet viewer than Sisu. She's on high alert, but it's getting better. Also remember, Graham is much, much younger than Sisu. If Graham's going to be reactive, which I totally agree with you, Graham is not a reactive type of dog, but most dogs do not become reactive till they're about 7 months. So I have lots of people, Yorkie owners, they come to classes when I used to do classes. 4, 5, 6 months old. Oh, my Yorkie doesn't bark. 7 months old. Oh, my Yorkie barks like clockwork. So a lot of behaviors you will not see till they're over 7 months old. But all this work you're doing now will prevent it from being an issue once they're 7 months old. Okay, so we're back to the ODR game. You hold the dog's collar and reward being able to watch the distraction calmly. 4 paws on the ground and quiet. That's what calm looks like. Have the picture in your head of what these words mean to you. Now you let go of the collar and hold your leash hand to your body. What does the dog do? Remember, training is questions and answers. You just asked your dog a question. Your dog is not being bad. He is making a choice. The choice that for him feels appropriate at the time or what he's capable of doing. Your job is to give him information on that choice. So you've let go of the collar. You're holding the leash to your body. Can you do this without me needing to hold you by the collar? Now you have to wait for the answer. The goal is the dog to continue to watch the distraction and leave his leash loose, not take a step towards the distraction and tighten the leash. This loose leash tells me the dog is able to watch the distraction and keep his brain in his head. When they take that step, that's the brain being drawn out. The dog moves forward and tightens the leash, aka failure. This is what I don't want. The failure is your dog asking a question. Well, what if I step towards the distraction? What if I allow my brain to get pulled out? Picture it like a big magnet pulling their brain out. I answer the question by taking a step away from the distraction. And this increases the pressure on the leash, increasing my dog's discomfort. Increasing my dog's physical discomfort helps him bring his brain back into his body. Ideally, before I ask this question, I have already taught my dog that leash pressure means move towards me. If you have a dog that seriously pulls, then the second you put pressure on the leash, he's going to instantly pull forward because that is his habit. Remember, triggers and consequences. Now the dog has another choice given this new information. He can back up and reduce the pressure, and that is the choice I'm looking for because now he's moved away from the distraction. And not when I put pressure on the leash, I am not moving the dog. I may move the dog if the dog moves right away, but I'm making him more uncomfortable for choosing to look at the distraction. If he backs away, if he makes the choice, and sometimes it takes a second and they make the choice. What if I back up or what if I turn towards you? If he turns towards me, I would reward with asking for a behavior such as sit, down, come, whatever. If he continues to look at the distraction but takes a step back so the leash is loose, I will reward him looking at the distraction. If he chooses to stay on a tight leash and continue to watch the distraction, remember, 80% success, 20% failure. The dog stepped towards the distraction, that's failure number 1. When I increase the pressure on the leash and the dog does not release the pressure by moving towards me, so that's a question, that's failure number 2. I would continue to back up a single step at a time until the dog makes the correct choice, which is moving towards me and away from the distraction, or turning and looking at me, and then I'd ask for work. But either way, he is looking away from the distraction. In the perfect world, remember, he can still look at the distraction and he's moving away from the distraction. In the perfect world, he's still looking at the distraction, but just backs away. That is the skill. Walking on a loose leash is all about being able to look at something and not move towards it. That is the definition of walking on a loose leash. Like you can drive a car and see a cute dog on the sidewalk and not go, oh, I'm going to drive over there and go see the dog. You're like, no, I'm driving. I can look at the dog and go, oh, cute dog, and then keep driving. Not like my friend's father who saw a pretty girl on the sidewalk and hit the car in front of him. That you don't want. That would be the dog going, oh, look, there's a dog. Here, let me go over there. Okay, so where do you go from here? That was at least 2 failures, so probably well over 20% for that session. This is valuable information, telling you that the dog is capable of at that moment with that distraction. Now you want to build up a bunch of successes to build your dog's confidence in what he's supposed to do. Remember, maintaining that 80-20. Failure is necessary, but success still has to be about 80% for the learning to happen. Make the challenge easier. So you could stay at the distance where your dog was successful, where he was finally able to move away from the distraction. You could go closer, but go back to holding your dog's collar. Being aware of the 80-20 rule and putting it into practice in every training session is the fastest way for the training to progress. Methodically increasing challenges while maintaining the dog's confidence and understanding of what you want. Comments. Julie, it takes, ignoring the distractions is really helping loose leash walking. Yes, it is the definition. Sisu is walking along nicely now without scanning the neighborhood. For Graham, I'm his love object. Yes, without a doubt. Graham loves you and doesn't care about anything else. So he's like, whatever. But with Sisu's very involved in what's going on around her. And those are just different temperaments. But the fact that she's not scanning means that's the problem, right? When they're constantly scanning, sooner or later, they're going to find something to react to. But when they've stopped scanning and are just walking, now they're not looking to react. Debbie, I've taken my pups to training for obedience manners and a few more pre-COVID. Your Facebook Lives have helped reinforce our pups' relationship and their success. Just want to say thank you. Thank you, Debbie. I am so glad I could help you, and thank you so much for listening. Okay, back to the live. Unfortunately, real life with any dog, but especially with a reactive dog, can kibosh all your well-laid plans. No matter how careful you are, crap happens. A dog comes out from behind a parked car 5 feet in front of you. Someone comes out of their house just as you're walking by. A jogger surprises you from behind. All that practice you have been working on with as much as possible managed means the odds of bad experiences will not affect overall training because you've gotten such really great work in there. The planned failures not only help you progress with your dog, but they also help you practice what to do when real life happens and your dog does react. It really comes down to avoiding failures. Avoiding failures is just giving you a fake sense of safety. If you don't set up planned failures, sooner or later crap happens, no matter how careful you are. But the planned failures give you skills on what to do when it happens. And also your dog learns to go, oh, that's not it, because you interrupt the behavior. Okay, I'm going to leave you with a quote. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success, by Ariana Huffington. I hope this live got you to embrace failure. I expect for you, it certainly was for me, the whole concept of failure, understanding it and finally embracing it was a long journey to actually appreciate failures and the great benefits they bring to training. It's really hard. We tend to go from not giving failure and making it too easy to too much failure and then getting upset when our dog doesn't do it. I'm going to be posting a video probably today, tomorrow at the latest, showing a really bad training session with my dog that'll show this. If you have any questions on how to incorporate failure in your training to get your dog to the next level, message me up. If you have a young puppy, consider investing into the future by building the training language between you and your dog right away from day one. No, your puppy will not be perfect. It's still a journey, but being able to fix the issues and see the issues before they're issues when they are tiny hills is so much better than having to fix a big problem by scaling a mountain after the fact. I see people all the time that I'm like, oh, if you'd only come to me 3 months ago, this would be so much easier to fix. I'm very excited to let you know that my next week is my 50th Facebook Live. Thanks for participating with me over the last 49 lives. I can't believe it's been 50. In honor of that, I'm giving away some swag next week. So make sure you set in your calendar to join me. To show you how much I appreciate, I really can't speak this morning. To show you how much I appreciate you joining me every week, next week's live will be on proofing as requested. Do you know another way of saying planned failures is proofing? Proofing is asking your dog questions that challenge their understanding of an exercise. Ever see a dog in person out in public? They look like they're in perfect sync. Their dog ignores almost all distractions, and the trainer isn't fighting or forcing them to listen at all. The dog wants to listen. They're in harmony. The dog wants to be a part of the team. He isn't a robot, but he's always kind of at least one brain cell's paying attention to their owner. Proofing is how you take your dog's behavior to that level, to the next level. Set it in your calendars to join me on Friday, May 14th at 10 a.m. Happy Mother's Day to all your doggy moms out there, and have a great weekend. I know, Debbie, 50. That's a lot. Okay, guys, I will stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions that you guys post. If not, have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you all next Friday for proofing, another one I'm really excited with. Thank you, Julie. Bye, guys.